Hi dearies, how are you? Today we will look into supply chain management and what is supply chain management? Why it's so important in food product management. Okay, so we will see on that matters. Okay, the outline of this chapter is what is a supply chain, decision phases in a supply chain, process view of a supply chain, the importance of supply chain flows, an example of supply chain. Okay, example, I only will explain one example, then later you can read other example. What is supply chain? Under this topic, we will look into the introduction and the objective of supply chain. So supply chain simply talking about all the stages involved directly or indirectly in fulfilling a customer request. Include manufacturers, supplier, transporter, warehouse, retailers, and customers. Within each company, the supply chain includes all functions involved in fulfilling a customer request, product development, marketing, operation, distribution, finance, customer service. Continue with supply chain. Customer is an integral part of supply chain. Okay. Customer, the one who's going to pay all the costs that involve along the supply chains. That's why we call it them. We call them as an integral part of the supply chain. Supply chains also include movement of product from supplier to manufacturers to distributor, but also include movement of information, fund, and product in both directions. Probably more accurate to use the term supply network or supply web when we talk about supply chains, because it's very much related to the network that they have with each members that we already explained in the previous slide, and it's also can web. Okay, supply web. Okay, supply chain stages. In their stages, customer, retailer, distributor, manufacturer, suppliers are the main people, main actors in all these stages. All stages may not be present in all supply chain. Okay, it's very depending on the nature of the business. Okay, this is a simple framework of supply chain. Okay, so you see, P&G is considered a detergent company. Okay, but can you see the linkage that P&G have with chemical manufacturer, plastic producer, and there is a paper manufacturer, Tenneco packaging, chemical manufacturer, then there will be jewel supermarket. So these are the players that involve in the movement of the product from P&G, for example, the detergent. Okay, so that's why I say it's quite the network is important. Okay, and supply chain involve everybody from the customer all the way to the last supplier. Okay, so when supply chain, we talk about supply chain, what is actually is move along the supply chain is the information, of course the product, and the fund or money. Okay, they move along this supply chain. So you see, so flows in a supply chain is information, product, and the fund. Okay, the objective of supply chain is maximize overall value created. Okay, to maximize the value that created. Okay, supply chain value, what is the meaning of supply chain value? Is different between what the final product is worth to the customer and the effort the supply chain expend in filling the customer request. Value here is correlated with supply chain profitability. Difference between revenue generated from customer and the overall cost across the supply chain. That is the definition for value. Okay, value that created by all the stages in the supply chain. For example, okay, Dell received 2000 USD dollar from a customer for a computer as a revenue. Okay, the price of the computer is 2000 ringgit US dollar. Supply chain incur costs on the information, storage, transportation, component, assembly, and extra. Okay, different between USD 2000 and the sum of all these costs is supply chain profit. Supply chain profitability is total profit to be shared across all the stages of the supply chain. So means that the profit that there will be shared by retailer, wholesaler, manufacturer, transporter, assembler. So these are the people depending on who are the players in the supply chain along the movement of the computer. Okay, supply chain success should be measured by the total supply chain profitability, not profit at an individual stage. So source of supply chain revenue, definitely customer. That's why they are very important in a supply chain, because they are the paying people. Okay, source of supply chain cost. We're looking at the cost, information, flow of the information, flow of the product, funds between the stations. This all considered as a cost in supply chain. Okay, supply chain management is the management of flows between and among supply chain stages to maximize total supply chain profitability. So, talking about decision phases of supply chain, there is three. One is on design the supply chain. Second will be supply chain planning and the supply chain operation. So let us talk about supply chain strategy. Okay, decision about the structure of supply chain and what processes each stage will perform will be designed, and decision need to make in this phase. Okay, strategy, supply chain decision, location and capacity of facilities, product to be made or stored at various locations, modes of transportation, information system. So these are the important elements, four important uh, items or elements that we have to look into when structuring or strategize the supply chain. Supply chain design must support strategic objective of the company. Supply chain design decisions are long-term and very expensive to reverse, must take into account market uncertainty as well. Okay, why they say it's very expensive? Because it's involved many peoples, many parties. So if you once you design, you cannot reverse. That is the intention. They said when you design it, design thoroughly, carefully, and include all the members who will be participate to move your product, to move the information, and to move the fund. So you have to thoroughly design with careful and serious attention need to be given in this section. Okay. So once you design, of course, we need to plan. Okay. So the second piece will be on strategic, supply chain planning. So on the definition of set policy that governs short-term operation, fixed by the supply configuration from previous piece, start with forecast of demand in the coming year. So how you want to plan? By doing forecasting. How you do the forecasting? By referring to the previous sales or previous revenue, okay, previous report. Okay, that is how we plan. So when you are planning, okay, what decision you need to take into account? Which market will be supplied from which location? Planned build up of inventory. If there is a stock where I want to store it, okay. Do you need subcontracting? Any backup location? What will be your inventory policies? Okay, and you should have in mind inventory stock, if you keep the stock more than estimated time, it will incur extra cost. So that's why you need to have inventory policy, timing and size of market promotion. And you also must consider in planning decision demand uncertainty, okay, exchange rate, competition over the time horizon. These are all the elements that you need to be consider when you want to plan your supply chain. Okay, we already strategized, we already planned. Now we have to operate the supply chain. So supply chain operation. Okay, so time horizon. Are we going to supply weekly or daily basis? Okay, so if weekly, how many transport I need? Daily, how many transport I need? Okay, so many things you have to decide during this operation period. Decision regarding individual customer orders. Okay, supply chain configuration is fixed and operating policy are determined. Goal is to implement the operating policy as effectively as possible, because during operation we don't want our customer wait for our product. So the waiting period, the waiting moment need to be reduced. Okay, how efficiently, how effectively you want to send their product to the customer. Okay, allocate orders to inventory or production, set order due dates, generate peak list at warehouse, allocate an order to particular shipment, set delivery schedules, place replenishment orders, and much less uncertainty, because this is we are looking at short time horizon. Okay, like strategy, when you planning a supply chain strategy or design, that we designing for long term period. That's why we say that you can reverse back, because it's involved a lot of cost. Okay, but here is daily and weekly operation procedure, so it's a short term. So that's why they say the uncertainty level will be less. Okay, looking at process view of supply chain, normally we have in any books there will be a two, okay, views: cycle view, push or pull view. So the definition of cycle view is a process in a supply chain are divided into a series of cycles which perform at interfaces between two successive supply chain stages. Okay, so in cycle view, the next slide will explain in detail, but normally there will be two important parties. Okay, they will interact. Okay, push or pull view is the process in a supply chain are divided into two categories depending on whether they are executed in response to a customer order or in anticipation of customer order. So respond to a customer order, we call it as a pull, but and anticipation of customer order, we call it as a push view. Okay, so these are the examples, simple examples, simple framework for you to understand cycle view. Earlier when I mentioned about like two people interaction between, okay, customer order cycle. Okay, the interaction will be between retailer and customer. Replenishment cycle, distributor and retailer. Manufacturing cycle, manufacturer and distributor. Procurement cycle, supplier and manufacturer. So the interaction will be between two parties. So each cycle occurs at the interface between two successive stages: customer order cycle, customer and retailer; replenishment cycle, retailer and distributor; manufacturer cycle, distributor and manufacturer; procurement cycle, manufacturer and supplier. Okay, so cycle view clearly define processes involved and the owners of each process, specify the role and responsibility of each member and the desired outcome for each process. Okay, so now we look at push and pull view of supply chain. Push, as mentioned earlier, is respond to the customer order. whereas pull is anticipation from the customer order. Okay, so here we are given a simple framework for you to understand more on the pull view of supply chain. So supply chain process fall into one or two category depending on the timing of their execution relative to customer demand. So when we come to pull, execution is initiated in response to the customer order. Okay, we respond to customer order. We get the order, then we respond to that order. Whereas push, execution is initiated in anticipation of customer order. So we can call it as a speculative. Okay, push or pull boundary separate push process from pull process. Okay, continue with the push or pull view of supply chain process. It's considered useful in considering strategic decisions relating to supply chain design. More global view of how supply chain process relate to customer order. Sometimes you can combine both push or pull and cycle views as well. The relative proportion of push and pull process can have an impact on supply chain performance. Okay, look at the supply chain, the macro process in effect. Supply chain process discussed in two views can be classified into three main elements: customer relationship management, customer relationship management, internal supply chain management, supplier relationship management. This integration among the above three macro process is critical for effective and successful supply chain management. That's why you should have a good relationship with a customer. At the same time, you have good relationship with your supplier to have a smooth uh, supply chain performance. So here we will discuss on the example how people, okay, in their each sectors, Getaway, Zara, McMaster, Toyota, Amazon, Batman. Okay, what are some key issues in this supply chain? Okay, for example, Getaway. So Getaway, as you know, is a direct sales manufacturer. Okay, so they are based in the US. Okay, so what are the issues they need to look into when it's come to a supply chain uh, matters? Sorry, why did Getaway have multiple production facility in the US? What advantage or disadvantage does this strategy offer relative to that which as one facility? What factor did Getaway consider when deciding which plants to close? Why does Getaway not carry any finished goods inventory at its retail stores? Should a firm with an investment in retail store carry any finished good inventory? Is the Dell model of selling directly without any retail store always less expensive than a supply chain with a retail store? What are the supply chain implications on Getaway decision to offer fewer configuration? So these are the several issues or questions that need to be addressed by Getaway. Okay, and it's again I'm telling you it's depend on the nature of the business. Okay, maybe Dell no need any players uh, along for them to in movement of their product. Okay, so they directly deal with the consumer. When the moment consumer make the order, they send the product directly to the consumer. So maybe that is work with Dell, but we don't know on the part of Gateway. So these are the things that you need to consider before you designing your supply chain. Okay. So here 7-Eleven. So issues that they need to take into account. This is just several issues, maybe more than that. Okay, we just listed here several. What are the factors influence decision on opening and closing stores? So location of the store. Where should I put the 7-Eleven? stores. Okay. Why has 7-Eleven chosen off-site preparation of fresh food? Why does 7-Eleven discourage direct store delivery from vendors? Where are distribution centers located and how many stores does each center serve? How are stores assigned to distribution center? Why does 7-Eleven combine fresh food shipment by temperature? What point of sale data does 7-Eleven gather and what information is made available to store manager? How should information system can be structured? Okay, so these two example and we have many, so student you can read on these are the issues that each company have to face and address. Okay, so that their supply performance will be increased. And Toyota. Okay, for example, Toyota, where should plants be allocated? What degree of flexibility should each have? And what capacity should each have? Should plants be able to produce for all market? How should market be allocated to plant? Plants here firm, what kind of flexibility should be built into the distribution system? How should this flexible investment be valued? What action may be taken during product design to facilitate this flexibility? Okay, then so the summary of we already at the end of the chapter. Okay, here student you need to understand um, what is cycle and push pull views in supply chain management. How supply chain macro process can be classified. What are the three key supply chain decision phases and what is important of each phase? So you need to understand that and the goal of supply chain and what is the impact of supply chain decision on the success of the firm. So with this, I end my lecture on supply chain management. Again, any question, please don't hesitate to ask me using WhatsApp, Messenger, whatever social media that can you reach. Be safe, stay at home, and kindly do your given assignment. Thank you and take care.